Welcome to Spiritual Changemakers, the podcast that guides you through tough times with practical tools and inspiring stories. I'm Andrea Thomas, your host and the Sacred Transitions Coach. Join us as we hear from spiritual changemakers who have connected with their higher power and overcame adversity. Whether you are navigating a difficult transition or seeking to deepen your spiritual practice, our podcast provides guidance to help you find magic in the change. Come on this journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation with us and unlock your potential to become your best self. Hello, everyone. I am so excited for today's episode because we are bringing an epic guest. Patricia, she is regenerative health specialist, and we have met a few months ago in Dubai, and we had a beautiful connection. We had lots of fun. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what got you to be a disruptor in Romania in the health industry?
Well, I think I didn't want to be one, It's just the life gets you like very unpredictable sometimes. And mine really did when my husband was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis like a decade ago, more than that. And it was that. It was like a desperate moment to find solutions to regain health. So back then, me being pregnant with one of my two daughters, it was that desperation with the eagerness to survive, I think the reptilian brain was like on fire. And I've always been very ambitious. And that ambition translated into me searching and then studying for my husband, for myself, because after about 2 or 3 years, I started having the thyroid problems. So that was the turning point, the real turning point, because I said to myself, like, what am I going to do if my husband is ill? I'm ill. We had two kids back up to that point. So it was like a no turning point. I started studying nutrition and then a little bit of psychology and then food psychology. And from that to hypnosis and to turning my spiritual life and really my life upside down was just a matter of years. And now I'm super happy because I'm into a practice that I love. I'm into the industry of making people's life better. So I cannot be more happy, or happier or even I'm super, super into what I'm doing. And I'm super into spreading the word because it's not that difficult to have a fulfilling and healthy life.
Yes, and I know a lot about preventative, yes, where you help people prevent to actually get to the really low point that you have been with yourself and with your husband. And a lot of people, I would say, they have their awakening and their shifts when they get at the lowest point. And with what we are doing here on this podcast and sharing all these stories, it's really helped people, even though you are going right now to a very challenging time. How can we help you lift yourself up, lead yourself while you are going through that transition so you don't get to the rock bottom in order for you to have your awakening, in order for you find the lessons and the blessings in your experience. And this is what I would like for us to touch on. So while you were going through that transition, what were you doing in that moment? And what are some really benefits, like some useful tips that you can give to our audience that they can utilize if right now maybe we have some people that are having challenges with their health and they're like, I would love to prevent it, but I don't really know where to start. I don't know what to do.
Well, there are so many things to do, but if I were to start again, let's say, I would really start with re-educating myself in terms of my way of eating first, because that's where your energy and your shifted mindset really can start. Because we already know that food can be fuel, or it can be like a starting point to your damaged interior and exterior. It's very clear that when you feel good, you have like the meaning and the joy and the feeling that when every cell of yourself is really getting into you doing something, even something that you don't like doing something new or being in discomfort or starting a new job or whatever it is in your life. So I would really start with looking into the way I lead through the way I'm eating, what I'm eating, when, because I'm a fan of biohacking and I'm actually right now studying longevity and women, first of all, slow, like in a beautiful way, in a natural but understandable way, maybe. I've met some really frustrated women. I usually work with women in my practice, women that are burned out or want to change something. It's really about the spiritual changing that comes with your body's changing in a way that sustains your better life. So I would start with changing, or maybe not changing, because not everybody should change something, maybe improving. I usually use in my practice the crowding out phenomena. So I would do a crowding out and I'm explaining it to you, not really looking into the bad stuff in my life, because that's going to create and to maybe enlarge a different mindset, a negative one. But I'm really into doing small changes into people's mindsets. And the crowding out phenomena can do that, or the crowding out exercise. So it's rather looking into what can I add into my culinary experiences, let's say, into the way I cook, into the way I see diversity in my food, in the way I usually spend my days and my activities, and going around that to be able to look into what food could like enrich my energy. Let's say if I'm working a lot with my brain, and we are doing it like many of us, so let's see what foods could really charge my brain, like in the morning, or then when my energy is low, what can I do? So it's really about adding up. So it's about crowding diversity in my life rather than looking into what doesn't work, because this is the mindset, at least in my country. So I'm a ex-communist kid, I've lived in capitalism like for a few years. So the mindset is like getting to know what's wrong and then try to change it. But the mindset is very, very wrong, starting like that. So this is the first thing I would do to prevent, because through food you can bring energy to your life, and then it's like, okay, now I want to do something more because I have more energy after my job, after everything that I have to do to make a living, let's say.
Yes. And I remember on my health journey when I started to make the shifts in my life, where actually after I moved to United States. And what I didn't know at that time is like I was constantly getting sick after I moved to United States from Romania. For those that are listening, we are both from the same country. And probably that was a big connector for us as well. But after I
Yeah.
moved to United States, I was constantly getting sick, and I'm like, what's going on? I don't do anything different than what I was doing back in Romania while I was in Europe. And my body was actually going under a shock because the quality of the food in United States, it's terrible. It's like very, very bad. The chemicals, the sugar in everything, it was getting me sick constantly and I didn't know why. And when I started looking into it, I'm like, what can I do? And I started out by just making small shifts within my diet. And I started buying everything organic. I stopped eating meat. And that was back in 2014 when I stopped eating meat, then I started buying everything organic. I started feeling much, much better. and I wasn't getting sick anymore. And that's when I actually understood the power that the food holds within our health and how we feel, how we operate, how we think, because it impacts everything. And when we are able to really look at the food, and not just the food, but I'm saying everything, no, everything in our environment, because I remember I started changing even like the cleaning products that I was using. I stopped like started buying more like natural products. And when we start looking at everything in our environment, it's something that fuels our body, we interact and we make different decisions. And I know you mentioned something, Patricia, that starts also with the spiritual change. And I would love to hear from you how did your spiritual change start in your spiritual practice in a ex-communism country that we are both from, where the religion is so impregnated.
Well, yes. So I don't think I really remember like a shifting point into my spiritual life. My parents were very religious, but I wasn't really. Maybe that was easy because as I was looking into ways of getting better or getting better my health, my family's health, actually I started looking for better ways of being a parent, you know. I was a mom at 25, so it was kind of new for me. I didn't have friends being or having kids. We were like the icebreakers into our group of friends. So this, plus by an autoimmune disease and plus by my lack of energy because of the thyroid and everything that came with cascade, you know, that came with all that. I I don't feel it like it was the lowest point of my life because I being so ambitious and I've always been like a disruptor from the beginning. And I was sure that there is more to this, you know. You can be like in 25, 29 years. My husband was just like that. Life is over and you just have to go through hospitals because we were like into hospitals all over the world, Brazil, like in Israel, Austria, and all the hospitals that had to do with autoimmune diseases. So I couldn't believe it. So I was in a real search and looking into the parenting, the conscious parenting. First, I met Dr. Shafali, you know, into the parenting. And of course, that was the starting point of my mind body quest also. So looking back to this, I think that was the starting point of my spiritual change also, because I started looking at parenting in a different way. And that was starting to move me inside, you know, and made me ask questions to myself that I didn't know I could ask before. So asking questions that were really the lofty questions that Vision is also talking about, I started thinking differently. So I wasn't thinking of from the point of view of a person that has problems. I started thinking from the point of view of a person that looks for solutions, you know?
Yes.
So it was like the future of my future. And the way I was starting to think was in a way that attracted people, attracted ideas, attracted, I don't know, link on the web that somehow drove me to Joe Dispenza. That was my turning point. So I went to buy an online course, a beginner's course to, I don't know the name of it. The name was something that I saw interesting. I didn't knew anything about him or about any spiritual guy, you know. But at first, I didn't understand a word that she said. I was not ready, let's say. But I started to buy some more books in Romanian because the courses were in English. I was okay with English, but you know, when you listen to something or when you see something into your mother language, that's a whole different situation and a whole different story. So I started to buy books on the street spiritual side. And I found a book that was also Don't Dispense Us. But then I started to hear about David Hawkins and then about the consciousness pyramid. And that was it. Like, oh my God, this is me. This is me. I started reflecting on my life from a different level, a little bit a step up,
Yeah.
And then it was like a boom. I went back to the Joe Dispenza course. And from that, I was like absorbing everything. And I started meditating and I started to talk about it. And I started to talk about it to my husband. I found myself talking differently to my kids. Then I was convinced that my life is into doing something to help people not pass through such an episode of I was passing through, with my house, with my husband, with my kids, and not being able to enjoy life. I was like, that was the lowest point of myself, I think, when I was self-criticism like every day, but still looking for solutions. So it was interesting because I used self-criticism, but in a way that was also looking for solutions. So it was kind of already shifting. That was the point where I started to really be the creator of my future. Because up to that point, I was in a flow like life itself. But now I am life itself. So it's shifted in a way that's looking back right now, because I don't really have moments like when I look back and oh my God, I did so many things. Only when somebody asks me. And now when I'm looking back and I see my practice and all my collaborators and my team and the I don't know 10,000, 11,000 people I've worked with like in the last 3 years only, because I didn't like have a moment to get a whole number. But there are so many lessons that I have with me right now, and me and my family also, because my kids have another chance. So this is the best thing ever, having a legacy. Actually, yesterday I had a business meeting and talking about a new project of mine. I was asked about my vision. Do you have a vision here? They asked. Everything I do is about my vision, is about helping people not get stuck the way I did and my family did, and the way going from desperation to life-threatening health problems to creating a space in the health industry that was deeply lacking. I think I, I did my part and I will do a great job from this point also.
Yes, and
But
I would love to wrap up for the audience, like what you have shared so far. So we are able to encompass all these amazing steps that you've been through. And what I heard you saying, it's truly like first, instead of focusing on what are the problems in your life, you started focusing on what are the solutions to your problems. So you started changing your focus, what you focus on, and instead of being a victim that we learn about so much, being a victim that, oh my God, I have all these problems that are happening to me. You started looking, okay, this is part of life. And now what are the solutions? Because as we learn throughout life, when there is a problem, there is always a solution. So you started looking at what are the solutions to those problems. And then I really heard you saying that you took a leap of faith. You took a leap of faith on like purchasing a course that you had no idea what it's about. You had no idea if you're gonna understand anything about it because it was in English and you were so used to learning in Romanian, but you didn't no matter what. You followed your gut, your intuition, and this is part of the spiritual awakening. I would say when you just do things without knowing why. And this like takes me back to when I bought my first ever course. Like I remember investing the first ever time back in 2017, $1,000 in a course that I had no idea anything about. Just the guy was promising that it's gonna help me build an online business within minutes. And because I was so new at everything, I did that I lived it. I'm like, oh, and I can build an online business in just like 30 minutes, an hour. And I remember going on that journey of that course and starting doing all those things. And I got a block. And I was so frustrated and I started feeling guilty. I'm like, oh my God, I invested so much in something that I cannot move forward with. And then the more I moved along, because that course was just like a catalyst for the next, and this is what I would like the audience to take on, that a lot of times when we do something, it doesn't mean that that's the thing that you're meant to do, or that's the catalyst at that point, but it's going to help you to you to your next guy. And this is what I feel like that course that Joe Dispenza did for you, because it just opened you up, even though you haven't done the course, it opened you up to go forward and go deeper into your spiritual practice, into health. So when you were ready energetically, you got back to that course that transformed the way you were showing up. No, and you said you started meditating and you started doing all those practices from Joe Dispenza. And I know meditation for me too, it helped me show up in my life with so much more compassion towards myself and everyone around me. And it helped me have that sense of connection. Like we are all one, we are all together, we are all connected in such a beautiful way to live that way. And I know that's what spirituality did for me. And what would you say is the biggest impact that spirituality had on the way you show up for yourself and for those around you?
I would say I've learned some, maybe the best two, three lessons of my life. First of all, in that, I don't really use the word stillness, but trust, I do. So maybe if one of the first lessons were to maybe this one, if you don't find a solution, create it.
Mm.
So that stillness and in all that rumor in that my head was into, that's what I really needed, just to stop, to be able to find the solution, you know. So what spirituality did for me was stopping the rumor and creating the space for me to create the solution for myself. So that was the first lesson, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to make the necessary research and study and all that without time, because I really couldn't find time. So what spirituality did for me through meditating, through finding, through curiosity of what is this, you know, it feels good. So let's go on this alley and let's see what happens. So I think the first lesson would be the fact that it offered me a space, the environment, to be able to create my own solutions, you know. A second lesson that I think I've learned is that I found a way to challenge the old system of myself functioning. And as long as I let myself challenge this old system of mine through stillness, through quietness and discomfort, because my meditation and all this for me meant a lot of discomfort
Yeah.
first. But I saw that there's a reaction to this, a good one. And this was the starting point of myself creating a massive change into myself and work in my inner power, because only through working this inner power, I was then able to share my voice and to find my voice. So I think this lesson is very important because it created me as a paradigm shifter that I would then do, because if you have a voice, you can use it. But there are so many people that didn't even know that they have a voice.
Yeah. And what would you say to those that maybe they know they have a voice, but they are still so afraid to share their voice because of that fear of judgment, of what other people are going to say. How am I going to be perceived? What would you say to those people to find that inner power within them and find the courage to share their truth?
Okay, first of all, I would say trust in yourself, but that's a cliche, and but it's one that works eventually. In the last 5, 7 years, the hardest thing I had to do for myself was to learn to accept myself first, and to learn how to really let go of myself, my ego. But for somebody that doesn't know to make the difference between me and the ego and the very many roles and the very many masks that I have, is very difficult for this. But this comes through discipline, because a deeper knowing of yourself comes with committing to get disciplined through this discomfort, and don't settle before you find it. But to give you my own example of this, because this is something that I use in my practice with my clients, I'm always asking or making them ask themselves, what would your best self do? And it's like, oh, they will tell me something. It's an exercise that can be a start. So you think of yourself like, how would you like to be? I don't know. I would like to be a lawyer. I would like to be something else than I'm right now. I don't know. Maybe they like what they do. Okay. That's your best self. Okay. Can you think of something more? What would you love to do? Where would you live? What would you talk about? Who are your friends? What are your activities? Okay. So we will envision in the best self. Okay. And then we will try to go further. What would your best self do if, I don't know, if somebody dear of yours dies, or because I put myself into all that. If my husband dies and 2 kids, I have a business. I don't know how to do the business because the business is his better. I'm just doing something there. So I was trying to be into this exercise to do, what if, what if something happens? Okay, what if you lose all your money? What if, so from the best out, we are going to the rock bottom, but just like, like hypothetically. So when you hit rock bottom, just mentally, you see that it's not so bad, because it's only up that you have to go. So that's where you lose with this exercise, you lose all your ego, because your ego looking into, I want to have millions. I want to be that lawyer. I want to be all that we did at the beginning. And when you pull the layers and you get rid of them, you are yourself, just yourself. And there's not one person to not see that, oh, but I'm enough. I'm good here where I'm right now without all the layers. So that's where you can start your guidance, your own guidance. This is like in 5 to 10 minutes, but I don't believe it needs like a deeper knowing or something at the beginning. It's just get out of your head and leave a little bit, like a 5 minutes to 10 minutes, into this discomfort of knowing that you have nothing. Maybe I don't know, but you have
Yes, and
yourself.
you have yourself. Yeah, there is an exercise similar to what you shared from Team Fairies that I use actually a lot with my clients. It's called fear-based exercise and how to make decisions. And it's very similar to what you shared, where you go into like, okay, list all your fears. What is the worst, especially when you are about to make a big decision, like a big shift. You gotta list all your fears down. And then you gotta ask yourself, okay, what is the worst that can happen if I do this? What are the solutions if this happens? What are the solutions to these worst scenarios? And then you go to what are the consequences if I don't do this? What are the consequences within my life? How is that affecting me? How is that affecting those around me? And then what are the benefits of actually creating this change, creating this shift? And as you said, when we put everything down, it just gives your mind like a clear path. So you take all that clutter out of your mind because it just lives there. And it's our imagination because 90 something percent of the things that we imagine and our fears, they don't even come to fruition. They don't even come to reality. So it's just a matter of putting all that imagination down on paper and also to envision what are the benefits, what are the solutions. Because one thing is that our mind doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So why not play in your mind, in your imagination, the solutions as well with the benefit? And I love that you share that exercise because I think it's so powerful. And how often would you recommend for people to do this, to go within themselves, to do this introspection? How often would you recommend for them to do it, especially when they are at the beginning of their journey of sharing their voice, sharing their truth, and working through their own ego to be able to step up into this new version of themselves?
Well, something that helped me was to prioritize, let's say, the me time or the relaxation time or the meditation time. And what I did, and I usually do with my clients too, because it worked like magic for me, was put into my agenda, like in each day, like 5 minutes maybe tops, or let's say once a week, if you feel that you don't have time for yourself or for your time or for relaxation or whatever you may call it at the beginning. And I would have put it into my agenda. So it was like seeing my calendar, that time was blocked. So that helps me like get the commitment that I was previously telling you about. And of course, that eased a little bit the discomfort because my brain works like I'm a businesswoman, first of all, So I worked in business, in marketing, in PR before my career shift. So I have to see my calendar. And many of us are like that, even if you are a stay-at-home mom or CEO or whatever, a doctor, you have like calendar, I have to do this. So we have to check the tasks for the day. So if I see that as a task, at first my brain is like, okay, we have to do this. We have to do this. So it was easier for me to set up the meeting with myself. So I was there for myself. Like I didn't have a choice because it was in my calendar. So my brain was into getting used to this easier than if I said, okay, I'm going to wake up 20 minutes early every day. That was a snooze, every day, if I put it like that. So it was easier for me and it's easier for my clients. So I think you can give it a try if you are a newbie into, I don't know, or if you want to try something new, if you don't are not used to meditating or something like that. So sometimes I would meditate, sometimes I would go to a massage and just be, put music, relaxed music, because that's debriefing too. So that's how I started, or listening to books, but that's not really that could not be a great idea if you tend to listen to books related to your profession, like I did. So that was not a good idea. you know, Maybe if you're listening to books, I don't know, belletristics or I don't know, like a movie, maybe that could. But I would prefer like debriefing and leaving everything from the world you live in your head behind, and just listen to relaxing music. Nature sounds when it's amazing for me. And I think that's why I usually meditate on this kind of sound. I live near the woods. That's exactly why. And I just open the window and I listen to birds and I meditate, or I'm just being and creating, because that's how I put it. I don't say I don't usually say I'm okay, I'm meditating. I'm just saying that to my kids so that I'm not disturbed, you know. But I would say to myself that this is the time for creation, because during my time that I'm just being with myself and not trying to impress anybody, because being a public person in my country, people know me, so I cannot go like, oh, you cannot go without being in a way or something like that. It's like obsession, and I've been obsessed with titles, and I've been having the imposter syndrome and all that coming towards you when you are trying to do something with your life, into a certain industry. But I'm not doing that anymore, because now I'm co-creating with the world. And that's better for me. My business is better. My practice is like has flourished since I have accepted that this is who I am. I'm a disruptor, and if if this new paradigm that I'm trying to create into this industry, my voice is like, here, you want it or you don't want it, it's mine.
You're releasing that, releasing
Yes,
the
I'm
attachment
just thinking
to
it's
what
into the universe, because I have something to say. I have so many ideas, so many information, if you want to say it like that, to offer to the world, because I started like 10 years nonstop. And I know so many things about how to eat, how to regenerate at the cellular level, because this is what I do with my clients, but not really anymore, because I now have a team like working on epigenetic fields, and we are like, I realize that it's not just about the way you eat and the way you live your life, with the way you breathe. It's everything. We now have a sleep coach, because if you don't sleep, you cannot regenerate. I work with you on regeneration on your cellular level and to get rid of inflammation in your body. But if you are not sleeping, what can we do? That's the part where your body regenerates, your brain. Okay, what do you feed your brain with other than food? Thoughts. Let's look into spirituality. Let's look into the way you put oxygen into your brain through breathing while meditating. Because if you just the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you will get bored. And people nowadays get bored. So let's look into that also. So we have mindset coaches, we have people working on emotional intelligence, because what can you say? We cannot be present into our lives. So how can we deal with all the rumor? Okay, let's bring this kind of coach into our life. So it's like embodiment. Then how can you move? You need to do something with your liver. It doesn't work just through food. You have to move in a certain way to get your body, your lymph, your everything going. So the energy flow, as long as energy flows into your body through movement also, and through the way you eat and you make the flow possible, and through the way you connect your brain with your emotions, and of course your digestive system, because we have the same type of enzymes and of stuff going on there, dopamine and all the hormones, that deal with our state of being. So we need to work on the central nervous system, but also the peripheral one, everything that deals with your organs. So I'm into working on myself as a whole. And this is the fact that I realized I'm not sure the way I eat, because I used to think about it, because being into my mind made me like, Patricia, you have to work on that more. You have to know more for your clients, for yourself, for your husband. Look, this works. So look into more studies and more studies. I realize it's not really, it's also about the studies, the way science works, and nutrition is like not rocket science,
yeah,
it's easy. It's easy when you start to embody the fact that you have a body and you have a mind and you have
We are
soul.
holistic people. We are holistic.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you want to
exactly.
see the shifts and the change in your life. It's not enough to just address one thing. And that was like a big lesson for me when I was on the cancer
For
journey
sure.
partner, where I was obsessed about the food. I was like, oh my God, we really need to make like this huge shift, like drastical shift on the food. And once you do that, we're gonna be so much better. And I remember not being able to convince him that he has to do that. And I was so frustrated because I'm like, oh, you are not doing enough. My thought was like, you're not doing enough. Yeah, you don't want to heal yourself. And then the more I immerse myself into like learning what is it that actually heals us, no matter what type of disease we go through, what is it that heals us? And that's when I've learned that it's everything, it's holistic and it's so much about, okay, having a purpose, having a reason on why you want to live, on why you are moving forward, having your emotions balanced, and then yes, food is part of it, but it's like it's a percentage, it's not the whole. And that really shifted me and helped me like let go of the need of wanting him so desperately on creating that shift and trusting that he knows better for him than I know. Because at the end of the day, it's not our body. So for those that are finding themselves wanting so much and so desperately for someone close to them to create like a big shift, a big change in their life, and you are not able to convince them, know that it's not your responsibility to change anyone other than yourself. And it's not in your power. We cannot change anyone around us other than ourselves. And when we realize that, then we act from that place that, okay, my power is within what I do, what I eat, what I say, how I act, but everything else, it's not in my control. We start acting and being in the world in a different way. And when you shared with us that you are adding like your time for yourself as a task within the calendar, I remember when I started dedicating time for myself, I've had a very hard time, even just like keeping up to that. Like I would add time in my calendar that, oh, I'm gonna meditate or I'm gonna do that. I would had a very hard time even just doing that. And the reason for that is because I don't think I was fully believing I was worthy to take
Oh,
that time
definitely.
for myself. And I'm like, I just have to work more. I have to work harder. I have to do, because there is so much to do. And the doing never stops.
Yeah.
The to do list, it's never gonna end. And when I realized that there has to be this balance between the doing and being, or what you explained as well. It's important to do because we live in the 3D world, but it's important to be, to create the space to receive the guidance, to be in the stillness. And that's when life actually starts flowing because we combine this masculine and feminine and we start flowing in life instead of pushing and working hard, which we are so conditioned, especially coming from Romania, from an ex communism country, that we learn that in order to survive, you have to push and work hard. Like that's all I knew. And I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's the master.
it's the
Yeah,
same
but
for you.
that's exactly what you touched. It's something that makes you, even if you're a woman or a man, live just in your masculine. And that's where I was. That's where exactly when I was before turning or reaching like to myself. And maybe to add a little bit on what you said would be that something that worked for me also, if you feel that you are more into the stubbornness of doing things and checking tasks and not being able to a little bit of time for yourself too, something that could work is to find something that you like doing that is more family, a new hobby or that could work too. You know, I took on dancing classes. My husband was like, "You need dancing right now? What is that?" We have so many stuff to do. It's like at the time where you have to pick up the kid, I was like, I feel I need to do this. I need to move my body, but in a different. So it was for me. It was dancing. For one of my clients was like taking up yoga. Maybe if you don't think it's like your kind, you can find something like painting or any crazy idea that you like parachuting or going. I realized be, mm, being a little bit more, I don't know, open to any ideas. I found out that I love water sports. I didn't know I would like those, but I was open when we went on a vacation. Okay, get on a board or something like that. Get on a jet ski, do something, get to a swimming class. Just be open because if you are open to new activities, you could find yourself having a real hobby that can bring you closer to that equilibrium. Because I started like 1 year ago, I started looking into universal laws and really get certified on that because I really do stuff like if I start with something, I'm going to up to the end. But what I found was that I need more equilibrium into my life too, even though I'm doing so many stuff. So equilibrium is like not just be spiritual and I don't know, get after your head, after your body, or, all that. I'm just trying to find myself into the middle because I was into the other extreme where I was into my head, working just from out of my masculine side. And all the energy was exactly the way you described it, like it push it and you have to work more hard, more harder, more, all that. And then I was onto the other side and I was like, no, I need to stay. I was meditating 2, 3 hours. I didn't give nothing, about, and I started to get frustrated because, okay, these hours are good. I feel good. It starts calming myself and I start feeling good. My body was feeling better. I had more energy and so on. But on the other side, I don't have time for my kids. And I got frustrated, because I don't have time to cook, to do other stuff that I need to do.
Yeah, and wrap it up
You?
slowly.
Try.
And I really want to say thank you so much, Patricia,
No,
for coming,
it was my
for
pleasure.
sharing your wisdom, sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience, sharing your voice and your truth, and inspiring others to do the same through your own story. And I would like to invite you to say just one word. What would you like to leave the audience with? If you're like, just remember this, what is one word that you would like to leave the audience with?
I'm really guided by the word curiosity in my life. So I would go with curiosity because that could lead you to the right frequency that you need right now. Just being open, curious.
Yes.
That's, I think, it's maybe not so fancy, but it's a way of getting started or getting more of life. Just being curious.
Be curious. So do not forget to follow Patricia, follow me, and be curious in your life with what else. I would say for me, when it comes to what else is possible for you. In what other ways can you experience and live life than you have done until now? And know that anything and everything it's possible. So allow your dream and imagination to go into the most amazing places because remembering your mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. And thank you, Patricia. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us. We love you, appreciate you, and care about you. Thanks for tuning in to Spiritual Changemakers podcast. To stay connected and help us reach more people like you, please subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. Join our community of spiritual changemakers on social media to connect with like-minded individuals and continue the conversation. Remember, the power to create positive change is within you. Keep showing up as your best self, and let's keep the magic of change alive. Until next time.